We're recording.
There you go, just like that. It works as if by magic. The internet goblins have made it work again. Anyways, we're here. We're back for week three. Week three of these business conversations. And you know what? I have loved every minute of it, Peter. So before I go on, I just want to say thank you for letting me be a part of this wonderful journey that we're on. And also, thank you to everyone that has listened and commented and got involved, because there have been some listeners. Isn't that great?
There's actually, I'm really impressed, because there have been, like, we're not talking huge amounts of listeners, but we've had a bunch of views. We've had episode 1 has been out, it had a number of views, and then episode 2 is out and it's had even more views on YouTube. So that's marvelous. And just as a benchmark, I've seen other videos that just haven't even come close to the amount of views. So very happy about that.
And you know what, it's not that we're getting hundreds of thousands of views, but the people that are engaging, the people that are watching are friends of mine, people that I maybe haven't seen in a while, people that I would like to catch up with again. And it warms my heart to know that they're taking a few minutes out of their day to see what you and I are up to, Peter. To see what you and I are up to. Tonight, Matthew, does people still know what that reference is when people say tonight, Matthew? I'm going to
I'm thinking stars in their eyes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. No, don't know. Don't know if people are still or is that still huge on that one.
Anyway, tonight it's all about user experience, and we're going to stick to 3 specific topics. I think we're going to talk about what does user experience means when it comes to how you feel. A very important part of user experience. What do you think about when you're considering user experience in terms of measurement? Something probably, Peter, you're an expert at. And then the third thing we're going to look at is, how do you improve user experience? Now, before we get into the meat of that, Peter, and before you wow us with your impressive professional knowledge in this area, I was thinking during the week, and I think I might have commented on it as well, about what we're doing here. What are you doing here, Peter? What am I doing here? Why are we doing this at 8 o'clock on, usually it'll be a Wednesday night? And what came to mind for me was the pleasure of catching up with a friend in a coffee shop or down a pub, or somewhere in a relaxed environment, and just having a chat about the things that matter to you. And in our particular instance, the things that matter to you and me as far as business is concerned. And not just you and me, other people as well. So we'll be bringing guests on here and talking to the things that matter to them. And that's my sense of what this is about. Is this what you were thinking it was as well, Peter? Or would you like to add to that? Or was it something completely different? Or are we coming at this from the same direction or from different angles?
I think there's a space for a more casual conversation in Northern Ireland in terms of what we're doing as business owners, because I see a lot of excellent pieces of content out there, and the ones that really speak to me are the ones that are talking about experiences, not necessarily more experiences, more the things that have happened throughout the week, or the things that have happened 10 years ago that made someone who they are. So that story and that journey, I think there's a space to converse about it. Now, that takes us down certain paths, like user experience, customer service, and sales stuff last week. And I think whenever we started, we said this might be interesting to people, who are starting a business or are in business or are working for a business or any of the things above. So I think that, that's it. It's definitely what you talk about. That coffee shop conversation where you're not really constrained by any real format. I think that's what
Good.
we're trying to do.
Good. Phew. We're, at least we're singing off the same hymn sheet. I can remember I used to work, my dad used to own a pub, and these bands used to come and play in it. And when the crowd got a little bit rowdy, they would shout out things like, "Are you not all playing the same tune?" or something along those lines. Obviously, that's not exactly, but we're singing off the same hymn sheet.
I didn't know your dad. So your dad used to own a pub.
He still does own it. But
still does. Did you work in the pub?
I worked in the pub from when I was about 11 years old. So what? I did. So I started off as a bar steward, the person who collects the glasses and all that.
Yeah.
Stuff, and quickly was promoted to an unpaid barman, which is the privilege of what happens when your dad owns a pub. And then the place actually became very popular. It was motorbikers. Biker
pub.
Yeah.
I have a vision of like Hell's Angel type bikers sitting out the front in a kind of from dusk till dawn kind of scenario. Do you know that film?
Yes.
Right. Hopefully it's not like that.
imagine that scenario only where all the bikers were actually really nice fellas.
Okay. No vampires.
There was no vampires or anything, but it was but there was that dusk to dawn. It was like a mini festival every month in this tiny village in the middle of County Down. I'll not say where it is, but there would have been hundreds. The bikers were coming on big Harleys. Like these were big chopper Harley, not just Harleys, all custom built bikes, all this type of thing. And they were coming from France, they were coming from Germany, they were coming from England, Scotland, Wales, the Republic of Ireland. They came from all over to this location in the middle of nowhere. And to be fair, the pub, it was a small company pub, but it had outbuildings and stuff that were then converted into music rooms and all this type of stuff. And they literally would be turning up from 7 o'clock in the morning, and they were camping in the fields all around. And they would be one of those, that feeling thing we were talking about. One of the things I strongly remember is the smell of burgers cooking from first thing in the morning, because they have the big half-cut barrels and stuff.
Oh, they did,
and it was, and it wasn't just those crowd that the type of music and stuff that were playing. Then attracted just locals, and it became a really big thing. And then my dad realized one day, like, my dad was doing really well out of it. Like it was brilliant business. Those guys had money to spend, and they spent it, one day my dad realized, he says, "This, like, I don't think anybody complained. Maybe somebody said, I don't remember there ever being an issue or a complaint around. But he suddenly realized this is a small village, and on a regular basis, it's been 10 times the population of the village is turning up, and maybe more, and completely smothering the place for a month, for a couple of days every month. So it would start like on a Thursday evening, and it would run right through until the Monday or the Tuesday, and this was happening every month. And he just went, this isn't fair on my neighbours. And he just stopped it, and they all moved off to some other lucky venue that took all their money. But in the short,
interesting.
In the 2 years or so that it ran, it was an incredible business.
What do you think of being behind the? I always credit ability to deal with people, my ability to deal with people, my ability to do some maths in my head quickly, my ability to provide good customer service, and my ability to cope under pressure has some roots in bar work environment when it's, and teamwork as well, when it's 6 deep at the bar and there's 2 of you on, and you need to coordinate your efforts to make sure that everybody gets. I wasn't even a particularly good bartender or barman, but I remember specifically working in the bars in around 18 years old, and I didn't realize at the time, but I look back and think there's a lot formed there. There's a lot of great skills that are formed in the bar. Did you find that, or am I completely out of it?
I would agree. So I worked in bars up until I was about 23, 24, until my proper job could pay all the bills for me. and I loved it. So a big portion of my life, 13, 14 years, I was working bars every other night or 2 or 3 nights a week. And I wouldn't say, again, I don't think I was a particularly good barman. I made a lot of mistakes. There was always an issue with the float, not due to corruption, but just their theft.
Embezzlement.
Embezzlement.
The funds were just resting in my account.
It was just due to maybe not have learned my accountancy skills very well by that stage. But you're right, there is a lot of experiential stuff in that, how to deal with people, because you're not dealing with sober, reasonable people.
No, that's another thing.
Sorry.
You're not necessarily, it's not necessarily a level playing field every night. Things change.
And strange people come into pubs as well.
Yeah.
So it's and anybody can come in, unless they're barred, any person can come into a pub. So you never really know what's going through the door, what sort of crowd is going to arrive, or what sort of an individual is going to turn up. And some people are just happy-go-lucky. Some people are in a bad place. Some people are just bad. You know? And some people are really good. And you have to deal to an extent with all that. Now, in most bars, you'll have a team around you. In a small country bar like what my dad had, when in the nights when the bikers weren't there and when there wasn't 1,000 people, sometimes we 4 or 5 people in the pub, and you're the only person behind the bar. You're the responsible adult in the room. So all of those things help you to grow up fairly quickly. I enjoyed it. I think I took a lot from it. But I think with any work experience, with any job where you're dealing with people, you're going to learn those skill sets. And on that note, I'm going to bring it back to the topic we're on tonight, which is user experience. I think the first question, Peter, I have for you as an expert in this area is, what is user experience? What is that? It probably not says on the tin, but what would you say user experience is?
I don't know if I would call myself an expert in this. I think, but then again, I think to be an expert in something, you have to do 10,000 hours in it and at it. And without a doubt, I have done 10,000 hours at least thinking about user experience and customer journeys. It preoccupies practically everything that I do. And when you ask what is that, when we were talking about it before, I was thinking it's absolutely, like, there's a bunch of different answers to that. It's how you are greeted at the door. It's how your product stands out to me as a customer. It's how you're treated as you're leaving. It's how you're, if something goes wrong, it's how you're treated when something goes wrong. But to sum all of that up, I think that the key word is feel. It's how the company makes you feel, and there's a million different segments of that. A good example is we do a lot of user testing. So if you're like me, running an ad agency, and you're running a ton of different campaigns, adverts, so you're spending, tens of thousands per day on ads for customers, and you're sending those customers, you're using that customer's ad spend to send people to a website. That website has to convert, because you could send the person to the website and it might never have a chance of converting. And or you could send the customers to another website and it might convert, same product, but just because it's configured slightly differently. So we user test, and what that means is we pay like usertesting.com, or we pay other user testing outlets to have people sit and go through the website while talking out loud of what they're thinking and what they're feeling as they're going through it. And it's totally eye-opening, because it shows you the things that are stopping people from purchasing on your website. Usually that's, whenever someone talks about user experience and customer journey, that's what you're getting to at the end. They don't have sales happening in their business. So one cure or one treatment or one fix for that issue of having no sales is user testing. And I'm going to give you the simplest example that I have of when considering the user and the journey and the experience that they're having meant the difference between the company making money and the company not making money. We have had a customer who came to us and said, look, we need you to run our ads. We don't think that we don't think the other company is doing a great job, and we want to see what's happening. So we looked at the ads and we thought, everything's matching up here. Everything looks good on these adverts. It was Google ads in particular. It was a hair care product, and everything looked fine. Everything looked, like actually quite good. The ads looked good. The configuration, the targeting looked good. We thought, well, if the ads look good and the targeting looks good and the price isn't outlandishly out of the marketplace, then something's not right on the website. There must be something that's stopping people from purchasing. So we looked at it and we found that when someone was about to purchase, when someone was about to check out, so you go through, you put your product in the basket. Remember the journey that people have gone on. They've been looking at cats on the internet or creeping on people on the internet, and they've then clicked on your advert. They've gone to your homepage. They've then selected a product that they like. They've then put the product in their basket. Then they've gone to checkout. And the second that they go to checkout, what happened was a pop-up jumped up asking for someone to rate their experience, which covered over the checkout button on the website. So it stops that person from purchasing. Now, the intent of the feedback form popping up, good. The execution of it, the placement of it, real bad. So really, really bad. But no one had thought to look at that journey and look at that user journey. So of course that was not going to be, and you could put $1 million into that ad campaign and it's never going to put the returns that it would if you don't. So hardcore, really detailed, in-depth user experience, which I do and think about a lot of the time, that's an example of just caring about how the other person is experiencing what you're doing is about. So in my eyes, it comes down to, how you make someone feel or how a customer is made to feel whenever they're going through all of the different interactions that your business has with them. What do you think, Martin? What do you think when you think user experience?
I think, as a small business, you always worry that big business are going to come along and eat your lunch. You're going to be able to do something, undercut your prices, or offer a service that you can't possibly offer, or just wow people with a much bigger marketing campaign or whatever the case may be. Until I've realized there's always been small fish. If you look at the sea, over 1 billion years of ocean life, there's always been small fish, and there's always been more small fish than there are big fish. And the reason for that is small fish can fit in their particular little ecosystem or whatever it is where they can survive, where the big fish either can't go or it's not worthwhile their time going. And one of the things about small business that you can do that big business can't do is the feelings thing. How you make people feel is controllable by the person who owns the business. You can control how somebody feels just by smiling at us as we walk through the door. You control how they feel just by asking how they are. You control how they feel just by doing what you say you're going to do for the price you're going to say that you're going to do for it in the way that your customer expects it's going to be done. You can control all those things absolutely as a small business. So as far as user experience and feelings is concerned, small businesses should be able to do that far better than any large business because you've got control. I'm going to give you 2 examples of in the last week how a big business with all the resources in the world has been put to shame and should be humiliated in comparison to an individual, a member of staff who just took, and it could be down to really good training, I'm not sure, but in my experience and the way I felt after the 2 experiences. The first organization is a big enough organization to take on the chin, so I will name them. Ulster Bank. I have been a client Ulster banks. I have had an Ulster bank account since I was 17 years old, maybe even younger. So that means I've had an Ulster bank account now for over 40 years. You can't get a more loyal customer than somebody that's been with an organization and paying the fees and interest and everything else. That like I have mortgages and business bank accounts and I've had overdraft facilities and loan facilities, all of which have been well managed. Interest has been paid on time, fees have been paid on time. I've never overdrawn an account with that organization in 40 years. Never done anything wrong. I'm the perfect customer. Ulster Bank were doing something with their business bank accounts. I don't know what it was, some sort of internal obligation that they had to correct something or fix something. Or I am still not clear. I've never been given a proper explanation. I don't understand where the issue arose. But rather than do it themselves, they put an obligation on their clients to submit something. So we had to confirm something. So we followed the instructions as we could read them. And we're not stupid people. We're qualified chartered accountants with 30 years experience, very highly qualified. There's a law degree in there as well. We know how to read and write and do sums. And we followed the instructions as best we could. We believed we had done whatever Ulster Bank had decided that they were going to oblige us to do. Press the button, submit it, and forgot about it. About 4 weeks later, we got a notification from Companies House that one of our checks had been bounced. And then after that, there was a flurry of bounced transactions, even though our account was well in funds. There should never have been a bounce. And those bounced transactions caused havoc because we then had to go back and redo work. So we had to write to the Companies House, we had to write to clients, we had to and explain that Ulster Bank had made some sort of a mistake. They had decided arbitrarily, without proper notification, that they were freezing an account that had loads of money in it that you should never have frozen. And then didn't even bother to inform us that that's what happened. The first information we got was checks were being bounced. So we contacted them. We found out what they had done wrong. We ensured that they had fixed it. So we helped them do whatever they need to do to fix it. No apology, no explanation that I could rely on. Just hassle, just disappointment, just frustration. That's all I got out of the whole experience. And then to add insult to injury, I got a statement through from the bank and they had charged me for the bounce checks. So they'd applied fees to my account for the bounce checks that bounced, even though they should have been aware that they had made a mistake. Nobody took responsibility. Nobody cared. The whole experience was awful. And now I'm telling you about it. And anybody who listens to this is getting this. Well, Ulster Bank did this terrible thing to Martin. How does that sound to anybody that's thinking about getting a bank account? It's not good. Do I feel bad about telling the story? I would never want to run a business down, but Ulster Bank makes enough mistakes and they're big enough and bold enough that they should have had this resolved and they need to take it on the chin and they need to hear what they're doing wrong. So that's a bad experience. And it made me feel bad. It made me feel angry, frustrated, all the feelings that I don't want to think. And to the point where I'm actually thinking, is it worth the hassle of moving? And just because of the hurdle that you have to go over to new bank accounts, that's probably why I'll not move at this point. But certainly if something like that happens in the if they bounce more of my checks again, I'm out of there, for like that for no reason whatsoever. So that's one feeling. But I'm not going to forget that. I'm not going to forget that. On the flip side, a guy called me today, a guy called Corey, and he was ringing from an organization called Pixel. So it was a cold call. And I don't know Pixel and I don't know Corey. And he was trying to provide me with a service for basically point of sale service. So if somebody has a credit card, they want to buy something, they have a solution to do that. The difficulty was that for this point of sale solution, for me to be able to use it, I would have had to have what's called a merchant account. So it all got sort of technical. It was beyond anything that I would do. And I certainly don't need to set up a merchant account for the type of business that we do. And I said to the guy, look, thanks for your explanation. He's a nice guy, he's polite, he came on, he wasn't pushy in any way, he didn't impose himself. And when I said, look, that doesn't happen, he says, look, I appreciate that, thanks for letting me know. But can I just try and be a little bit helpful here? These solutions aren't our solutions, they're not our products, but they may suit the requirement that you have. And he listed three. There were Sum Up, Squared, and Settle. And he said, if you're processing under £1,000 a month of transactions, these actually have a very low cost. You don't have to sign up for a monthly subscription. and they might be useful for what we're doing. And what we're actually doing is beta testing the Workshore web platform. He didn't have to tell me that. He didn't have to take time out of his day. He could have just went, okay, no sale here, put down the phone. But he actually went the extra mile to mention other services from which he wouldn't profit himself, and made me think, you know what, actually, that guy is a good guy. I wrote down his name. I wrote down the 3 services he said. I wrote down his business name and said to him, look, there may well be a case that we will need a merchant's account in the future. Stay in touch with me. Stay in touch with me, because you're the guy I want to hear from when we have to do this. That's the difference. He made me feel good. I believe he did a good job. I'm telling you that he did a good job, and he's got the opportunity to come back at me again. If Ulster Bank comes to me for a service, I'll just go, no. I've got the services that I have to use, and as soon as I get out of them, I'm out of there. This guy comes to me with a service, I'll say yes if I can. And not only that, I'll tell other people about the good job he did. What's the difference between that? He took 30 seconds to 2 minutes to make me feel good. That's why feelings and user experience is important in business. That's what we should all be thinking about.
How low is the bar? Like, how we were talking about this yesterday on Wayne Denner's podcast that he has, really interesting yesterday, with Martin Murda, and we were talking about it, and just if we look at that, so the marketing from Corey is high, and it takes no real effort. It just takes for you to come up to the level of being a good human. That's all it takes. It's the bar is so low for that. For Ulster Bank to just have all of those failings, and I've dealt with them as well, and I'm a lifetime customer with them too, and I've definitely had situations where I've thought that's awful. That's really bad. I'd be incredibly embarrassed if that was my my business.
Absolutely right.
Is it just bigger equals worse? Is it just when you get to a certain size, you just can't look after your customers? Is that the case?
No, I don't think so. I think it comes down to training. I think it comes down to consideration. I think it comes, I don't have to list it out. People sitting watching this podcast will know what has to be done in order for a big or a small organization to provide the sort of service that Corey provided, that made somebody feel good when they came off the call and would refer them and work with them again. And it comes down to, as you said, Peter, common decency, and putting decency and consideration for your client or your customer into your policies and procedures, and not profit taking and selfishness and lack of dignity or concern just because it makes an extra 20 quid here or 20 quid there. Ulster Bank may be reaming in loads of money at the moment, but what is their purpose? What is the purpose of a bank? Yes, it is to make profit, but if they did it properly, they could probably make an awful lot more. They would be seen more, like, because of problems we've had, Dad, we do a lot of business now through Barclays Bank. We also have a Bank of Ireland account. That's business that should be with Ulster Bank, but they're just not getting it. With Santander accounts, with mortgages, with different organizations. All that, and you're talking over the years, possibly hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of profit, or at least interest and fees and all that type of stuff over the years of a customer who stays 40 years or something. They're lost all that just because they haven't got the basic decency element right. And I think any organization can do that with consideration, care, and the proper training of their staff.
Absolutely. Martin, you mentioned the last 2 weeks on Business Conversations, you have had Martin Gilchrist and Co. Chartered Accountants above you. Now to your left, you have the Workshore logo, and maybe it's a good time to tell the people about what Workshore is and what it's about.
Yeah, thanks for noticing, Peter. It's nice to know that you care, that you actually see what's going on in my life. You'll notice I'm in a different room. I've moved to the drawing room from the office.
Good.
What was going on today? I was having a different type of conversation. So I was actually doing Workshore stuff there. I was being interviewed, or basically Workshore has been used as a case study, and because we provided a graduate internship to a fantastic young man called Ryan O'Neill, who's now moved on into permanent employment with one of our how do you say, VR Park and that organization. So basically they are, I was going to use the word collaborating, but I don't think collaborating is the right word, but we are working together, and certainly Workshore uses virtual co-working space within VR Park, and Ryan's going to move on to it. But we're being used as a case study by the European funding agency that supports the graduate internships. And I was being interviewed as part of that. And because we were talking about Workshore, I had the Workshore logo up, and I forgot to change it before we came up for the call today. So that's we have the Workshore logo. What is Workshore? You know what, Peter? I think honesty is the best option here. What do you think? I'm going to be completely frank and honest. Workshore is a proof of concept. And the concept that we're trying to prove is that we believe that there's a requirement for a web platform that facilitates people like you and me, Peter, being able to book co-working spaces, desks, meeting rooms, and all those type of short-term office type resources that freelancers, professionals in independent practice, and even people who have offices but might need to go down to Belfast for a day need. What's the best way to do that? And Workshore is trying to facilitate that, while at the same time building a community of freelancers, professionals in independent practice who may want to come together in those co-working spaces. So Peter, for example, digital DNA is coming up, and we may want to do, and I'm just throwing this off the top of my head, I'm not suggesting we actually do it. We may want to do a live or a real world, the two of us sitting together in a real office type interview or type discussion about digital DNA. How do we book that? How do we make sure that we book the tickets? How do we make sure the Wi-Fi is available? How do we make sure the venue is suitable? That's what Workshore is all about. But where are we with Workshore? So we've had a graduate intern, which is great, and he did a lot of great work in relation to community building. We have a young man now working with us, Ian, and he's working on a proof of concept website, which we're building using Google Sites. So it's all sticky back plastic and bits of cardboard at the moment, just to show people what this thing will actually look like. We are building a community, and we have had, and you were actually at one of our pop-up co-working days, Peter, in Brunel's in Newcastle.
It was great.
Yeah, it was good fun. So we're having a bit of fun with it, but it's not a proper business yet. And here's the question, and this is where I want to be completely open and honest with people about hold on, Martin. You're a practice manager in a highly successful accountancy practice, which should keep you busy all day and all night. And it could do, you make plenty of money of that. You've got a reputation there. You've got a portfolio of clients that need your attention. Why are you doing this Workshore thing? Why are you doing this? Well, the first thing is I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about freelancers and individuals who create businesses out of nothing, that go on to support themselves, their families, their communities, and their company. I think people who do that are worthy of all the admiration and respect and the support that we can give them. And it's partly about that. But my selfish interest is quite simply, this is a fantastic way to get in front of people who could be Gilchrist & Co clients. Our clients are professionals in independent practice. I could go out there and talk to the world about Gilchrist & Co and VAT returns and self-assessment tax return. You're already getting bored. No, Martin, please don't. But if you go out into the world and you talk about collaboration, you talk about innovation, you talk about new ideas, you talk about co-working, you talk about hot desking, people are genuinely interested in that stuff. I'm genuinely interested in that stuff. And it's a fantastic conversation starter. If people also then go and ask, well, what is it you actually do, Martin? And if they're interested, what do I do? I can then have a conversation. If they don't ask, they're not interested, and I don't tell them. They just worry about Workshore. So in a nutshell, that's what Workshore is.
Pretty awesome. Going to that event was really cool because it was first of all, it was we were just out of lockdowns and things like that, so it was nice to see humans again. Second of all, concept was great. Co-working with people for the day. You could sit and do some work if you needed to do some work, or you could chat to people if you wanted to chat to people. And there was a few little event type things in the middle of it. I liked it too because it was somewhere else. I liked that it was in Newcastle. I enjoy. I don't like the same thing every day. I want to go and do different things and be different places. And Newcastle is a fantastic place to. I was actually there at the weekend. Had a had a Haribo ice cream in
Oh,
Nogletto.
oh dear.
I mean, that'll send your sugar levels through the absolute roof for the day, so it will. But it was a joy. That was good. But yeah, that's
You should
fantastic.
have given me a
So
ring. If I'd known in Newcastle, I could have popped up to see you. Could have had a coffee. But
I
sure.
know, I know, I didn't know I was going there in advance. It just kind of worked out.
So
Kind of worked out that way.
let's use
Yes.
that as a test then for the next bit that we're going to talk about in regard to user experience, which is measurement. So I'm not sure if that's a good example, but if you were to as a professional and the stuff that we did there was video interactions and there was a lot of sharing when that we were able to put a lot of content, create a huge amount of content, great content, positive content, informative content that we were able to share across our social media profiles afterwards, and it helped develop the brand and the community that we're trying to build. From a user experience point of view, how would you go about measuring that type of stuff?
So
What would you measure? What and why would you measure? We've written down term of measurement to discuss tonight.
you have to you can't measure something while it's going on without thinking about measuring it first. So it has to have a goal. So what you're doing has to have some sort of idea of what success is. So is success in the case of that event, is it everybody stayed and didn't leave in 5 minutes? Is that because if that's success, then that was a roaring workshore success. So understanding what the goal was is so that the first success and measurement starts way before the event. It's like I've heard people talk about you don't win the rowing race in the race. You win it 6 months before or a year before or 10 years before when you start training for that race. That's when you win it. So understanding what you're trying to measure, trying to answer a question. So did we gain more business from this event? Did we increase our reach from this event? Did we get many eyeballs on this event? Did everybody have a good time? Did everybody, so let's say we had some of those things that we were thinking about that we wanted to measure, then I'm a big fan of the conversations with people. I tell customers and I say, look, we can do a bunch of advertising for you, but do you know how your customers like your product, or do you know anything about that? And the amount of them that don't have a connection with their end users is incredible. It's if you have 100 customers and you pick 10 of them and you have just a conversation with them and say, how do you like this part of the business? How are things going? Just that touch point, that connection, really important. And that's a measurement of experience. Literally, it sounds completely out there, but picking up the phone or sending an email saying, how are things and what do you think of this is important. Now, on a larger scale, it's an email survey or a social media survey or some sort of survey that's sent out to participants or your user base or something like that. And it's easy to do that. The hard part is actually doing it and getting over the fear of, if I do this, I'm going to get a lot of bad feedback back, but I can guarantee, and I know that I have never seen a company send out a feedback request and either not get any or be disappointed with the feedback that they get, because it's something that you can do. It's something that you can change. You need to know if something's not right and if something's not working. So measuring that user experience, having the goals before you start to try to know, you got to know when you're successful. There has to be some sort of a goal. conversations with people about the experience to find out whether you met the goal, or on a larger scale, emails out. There's other touch points that I think are pretty cool. Apart from the hygiene situation of those touch button things in Apple Greens and in Lidl and things like that, I love those. Pre-COVID, I was always tapping those. After COVID, I don't touch anything anywhere. So that's a cool way to figure out. So I also I remember working with Next years ago. And Next were able to drive a lot of social media following online, and it's because they put a like button or a suggestion to like us on Facebook, physically in stores at eye level to places, and they also did it on their posts out to places as well online. So the measurement is another level of user experience, because if you just consider what people are doing and how you can interact with them and how you can ask, whether it's physically handing out, I don't know, leaflets or checkbox things for user experience, or a suggestion box, or it's an email, or it's a conversation, it's just trying it and it's doing it. I think that's how we measure experience. Well, what do you think, Martin?
I think it depends on your resources and your time. A lot of small businesses go to business consultants, or Invest NI encourages them to use up a grant, getting some sort of consultancy advice, and they go through smart techniques, and they go through all this stuff that you can do in business, and none of it's relevant to them because they don't have the time to maintain it. That what they need to be doing is selling their widget or making their buns, whatever the case may be. And all this management stuff is fantastic, but if you don't have the time to implement it, it's not for you, and you just need to know the basics. Am I selling? I need to sell 10 buns today. Have I sold me 10 buns? Yes. If I haven't, no. And I think measurement is great if you've got the wherewithal and the resources to do it. I think we can all measure stuff. We can all find a way within our means to measure things, but you have to pick what it is that you're going to measure, and what are the most important metrics in regard to your business. So I can tell you important metrics for the practice. Important metrics are our billing target. Are we hitting the billing target that we need to meet to make sure we can afford to pay ourselves and pay all our bills and maintain all the practice fees? So that's a metric that we know every month we're going to have to hit. Or another metric might be the balance of the bank account. Is the balance of the bank account being kept at a level that we have got a margin in case recession comes? We've got an emergency fund in there in case we need to rely on that, in case fees stop coming in. That's a metric. But in relation to user experience, if I'm thinking about what metric that we have, do we survey customers to say, are they happy or not? Or the honest answer has to be, Peter, no, we don't. And during the course of this conversation, this popped up into my mind. I'm going to myself, that's actually a more important metric than our billing target. If our
they're related.
Yeah, they're related. Yes, absolutely. And good user experience is going to work its way into good billing figures. But why are we not? What is the low-hanging fruit that we can do at Gilchrist & Co. to say we are improving over time our user experience? What are the things that we need to change to ensure that our user experience? It's one thing for me to sit and go, yeah, our clients get a fantastic user experience at Gilchrist & Co. Our clients get my personal telephone number and they can ring me anytime, day, morning or night. Not that they do, but they could if they want to. Our clients get an FCA qualified chartered accountant looking after every aspect of their books, from the VAT return right to the submission of the corporation tax return, and the fees are fantastic. I may sit here and say all of this and believe it to myself. Well done, Martin. How good are you? You're doing a fantastic job. But what am I doing to improve? What are we doing to improve our user experience? And if we don't have a way of measuring improvement, how do we even know that we're improving? How do we know that what we're doing is making improvement to the user's experience, not Martin Gilchrist experience, not Gilchrist & Co. experience, to the people who use us, who use our services, who trust in us and rely on us to do the job that we do properly, effectively, cost effectively, and to the best of our ability. What are we doing to measure that? And I have some thinking to do, Peter. I have some thinking to do after this conversation about how we actually go about that. And if you had a suggestion off the top of your head for metrics, key metrics that you would apply to the accountancy practice, let me know. But I appreciate that's a very difficult question to throw out, and I don't expect an answer there. But I certainly have to think about. I have to think about that myself.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because we spend a lot of time on this, and there's a journey that we've been on. So what are the questions that you ask when you want feedback? You know, what do you ask? And what you can do is you can create about 10 different questions, and you can create 100 different questions, or you can create, you know, a sliding scale of, are you somewhat satisfied? Are you slightly satisfied? Are you not satisfied? Are you completely raging at us? You can complicate it all. You can make it all, so many different types of variation. If you send out an email of a customer service survey, you can make it complicated, but don't, because there's only one question that you need to put on it. And in your case, it's going to be something around what can we do differently to make sure you stay a satisfied customer? And a little box with suggestions in it, so that they can fill in that the customers can fill in, what can we do? And it could be any variation of that one simple thing, that one simple question of, how can we make sure that we exceed your expectations next quarter? Asking the question, and they've got an opportunity there to tell you if something's wrong. They've got an opportunity also to tell you, here's what we'd really like to see. This is what's important to us. So allowing that little free form bit of text, that's it. That's all. And it only takes, instead of doing a big, huge, long, because if you do a really long survey, people have to take time to fill all of that stuff in, whereas in 2 minutes, you could have that answer. And the user, it takes people a lot of time to fill it. And then if you make it really complicated, you have to spend time figuring out what people have said and what they've meant. And so, some people are a bit satisfied or a bit, none of that matters. You just want to know how you can make sure that they stay a satisfied customer. That's what I'd do.
Very good. That's an excellent suggestion. It's so good. I've written it down, Peter. I'm going to put that into my thinking. Here's another unfair question. I love asking unfair questions, and we're going to have to. I appreciate we're at 52 minutes already, so we're coming near the end of our reasonable. Time flies when you're having fun. Speaking generally, we're not talking about Gilchrist & Co. specifically here, or any accountancy practice you may use or have used in the past. What is, and this is subjective, I don't think there's a wrong or right answer here, but in your view, what is the thing, if you're to pick one thing that accountancy practices need to work on to improve, which they could measure, that would answer that question for you? What do you think, generally speaking, accountants aren't seeing that their customers are, that they should be doing, that they're not doing? Is there a thing? Is there a thing that all us accountants are blind to?
In my head, no, a crazy place, but in my head, and I need your help on this, because here's where I put accountants, the money people. So in a business owner's head like mine, I have compartments. So I have production, which is the area where the product is created and looked after. I have IT. It's where we manage the IT function of the business and make sure that we have email addresses running and internet security and all kinds of things. I have HR, and it's to make sure that our people are as happy and as the best that they can possibly be. Accountants, I put accountants in the money place, and what I don't see is, and I don't really understand the difference between accountants, bookkeeping, and payroll. To me, they're all under money. That's where money comes and goes. But the function of every single part of the business, the IT, all of that is making more money, is making money as a business. That's what we want to do. And I feel that that's absent from the accountancy part. I feel that that money part is, and even bookkeeping and all that, is about counting and not so much about opportunities and how we can make money. And that to me, if that was a part of that area, and then I make excuses for myself, and I say maybe I just don't understand it. Maybe I don't understand what that part is, and it's entirely possible that I don't. But that's off the top of my head.
That's a very good point. I think what you've hit on there is there's a communication piece that accountants need to work on a lot harder for what they're explaining to their clients, to explain what it is that they're actually there to do. Part of the reason why at Gilchrist and we've boiled down our services to 4 simple areas: self-assessment, corporation tax, VAT, and payroll. That's what we do, and that's all we do, and we don't do anything else. The reason we've been so definitive about that is that we want that clarity for our clients. So if they come to us and say, oh, what about R&D tax credits? No, we don't do it. What about capital allowances in commercial properties? No, we don't do that either. Okay, Martin, what do you do? What do those 4 things? Why do you only do those 4 things? Why do you not help me with wealth management planning? Why do you not help me with pensions planning? Why do you not? You're an accountant, you're a qualified accountant, huge experience, you should be able to do it. The reason we can't do all those things for all those people is that each additional thing requires another little bit of experience. And not to make an excuse, but by way of explanation, to get to where Michelle is at the moment. Michelle is an FCA, a senior member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants with 30 years odd experience. In order to get to where Michelle is now and to maintain a practicing certificate over all that time in the training, it costs about £250,000. An awful lot of investment goes into training an accountant. And that's, so there's a university, there's the professional exams, and then there's continuing professional development and all the insurances and all this stuff that has to be paid for. The client doesn't care about that. They don't care they're getting £250,000 worth. All they care about is, well, what am I getting here? When you have all that experience, it's a bit like a doctor. You can't be a GP and an eye surgeon and a heart surgeon and a brain surgeon. You can't provide all those things. And you wouldn't expect that. If you went to your GP and they said, oh, you need your cataract taken out, you wouldn't go, can you do that? you just wouldn't do it. You know, you would understand that that's not possible. However, it's the same with an accountant. If a general practice accountant, like what Michelle and I are, tried to do R&D tax credits for you, although we may be able to do it, we may miss something that could cost you a whole lot of money because it's not our particular area of expertise. And that's why accountants are probably disappointing some of their clients along the way. Our job, therefore, is, and what you've highlighted is, that we should have a continuous communication with our clients and say to them, just as I've asked you, what is it that you would like us to do or do you think we should be doing that we're not? So that we can either do it for you and say, yes, okay, we can do that for you, or give you an explanation as to why we can't do it. And I think part of the reason why that conversation is that some accountants, and I'm not being flippant here, but to say we're not. We know exactly what we are and how we do it. We've painted large and red at the front of the practice. I think some accountants are afraid of doing that in case they lose a client. I know we've lost clients when we've said, no, we're not going to do R&D tax credits, and that's okay, you know, because we don't do it. We can't do what the client needs, and therefore they have to go somewhere else. We understand that, and we've lost clients that we had fantastic relationships with. We still have fantastic relationships with, but they're not our client anymore. They're not paying us for the service. But some accountants would go, no, I don't want to lose that client, and therefore I'll just keep my head down and keep on battering away here and hope that we'll get it right or not. And I think sometimes you just have to be brave enough to decide who you are, what it is that you do, and take the time to explain it. And certainly, as part of this user experience thing, that's something I think I'll be doing more.
You raise a really good point, and this is valuable for all businesses. I think it's valuable for all businesses anyway. Shouldn't do something if you can't do it. You shouldn't say you can do something if you can't or don't do it. I know that at the start of PDG advertising, we definitely said we were things that specifically probably web development. We would say, yeah, absolutely web development, because I had a dream and a vision to have everything under one roof. And I thought I could do web development. I actually failed at doing web development multiple times at the start of that journey, of my journey, but was too stubborn to say, actually, we're terrible at that. We're really, we're really bad at that. Do anything you can not to work with us on web development. Should have been on our advertising for any web development at that time. And that should have been okay, but I would have been too immature, too stubborn, too scared, fearful that if they didn't come for the web development, then we wouldn't be able to do the advertising and we would fail and everything would go wrong. It's completely not the case, because if you figure out what you're good at and what you're not good at, you end up providing a much better user experience. You end up being happier. You end up doing the things that you want to do rather than, the things that you think you should be doing. Not everything that you love doing will be absolutely perfect. You'll be there'll be times whenever things will get a little bit tougher, but it's different than in my example of trying to do web development when it was just a mountain that was way too high for us to be able to conquer. And actually, I think it's way better to say, look, we just don't do that. If you do know someone that can do it and is really good at it, that connection, that referral is a good idea. That's what we do now for web development. We have a network of people now who we know are tried and tested at doing it, so we can work with them on it. That's way better than you taking it on yourself and just messing it up for a customer. Talk about a bad user experience that will happen from the very start. So it's very, very important. But yes, Martin, we are coming up to the closing seconds of our third episode now of Business Conversations, and this episode will be uploaded to YouTube, and we'll likely link to it from our social media accounts. So if you subscribe or you have subscribed, we really appreciate it. If you have liked it, if you've watched it, we'd love to know what you think about it in the comments below. So let us know. As always, if you want to come on and talk with us, next week we're likely to have Wayne Denner on with us. We've got a number of other people that we will likely be having on the video as well. But Martin, before we go, we have to figure out a name for this episode of Business Conversations, and I have a suggestion, but and it's weird because I can't actually remember totally where it came from, but I know it was important at the time. Big fish, small fish was the thing that stuck out from an earlier part of our conversation. What do you think about that, or do you have a better suggestion?
No, you have a gift for these things. You have a gift for picking out just nice wee names from the conversation. And I was sitting thinking, I bet Peter's going to come up and ask for a name. I can't beat that. Big fish, small fish. Is absolutely excellent. And one final point before we go, before we close off, and just to reiterate what you said. Anybody who has watched this far, so you've sat through 62 minutes of me and Peter talking about stuff that we're passionate about, it means you must have seen something of interest in there. You must have had something that caught your attention, kept you with us, whether it's the conversational nature, whether it's topics we were talking about, whether it's our passion for the subject, whatever it was, it kept you in there. Therefore, I would suggest it's worth subscribing. So if you haven't got on to Peter's the Business Conversations, what's that called on YouTube? What is it?
Business Conversations.
Yeah, but what is that called in YouTube? Is that a
channel?
Channel.
Yep.
So if you haven't gone on to the Business Conversations channel, and subscribed. Do that now. Wherever the button is. Where's the button? Is that the place where the button is? Subscribe button?
It's button somewhere. It's a bell or somewhere. It could be anywhere up along here.
Yeah, go and find wherever that button is, and do your good deed for the day and subscribe. Not because it's going to make us millionaires, although that would be nice, but because it shows us that there is value to others. There's obviously a value to me and Peter in this, but it shows us the value to others. The other thing is, if you've watched this far, if you thought it was entertaining, if you thought it was informative, if you thought it just filled time in your day with joy and happiness, share it. Share it to one person in a little message. Share it on your LinkedIn page. Share it on your Facebook page. Share it on Twitter. Share it wherever you want, because the more people that see it, the more people we're going to be able to bring on to here, the more conversations we're going to be able to have, and the more that we're all going to get value out of it. So do those two things for me today, please. My charity appeal is press the subscribe button and do a little bit of sharing. And that's enough for me, Peter.
Very good. We will be back next week with the fourth episode of Business Conversations, and looking forward to it. Thank you again, Martin, for co-hosting, and everyone, hope you have a really great evening, day, morning, whenever you're listening to this, and we'll see you on the next one.
Cheerio.